Hello, my audience, my newcomers. My name's Jake Allen Graham. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm getting a seat. I'm reviewing a really stupid trilogy. A thing that I call a mistake of cinema. The Iron Man trilogy. And Spider-Man trilogy with Tom Holland's is kind of like, it's one of those two I was going to talk about trilogies. And I kind of forgot where I was because my blood pressure is high because how much this sucks. I am not. Just want to let you know. I had a thought, but then I lost it of what trilogy I was reviewing. So I picked the Iron Man trilogy out of the two I mentioned. I'm going to talk about the Iron Man trilogy with Robert Downey Jr. because I hate this more than the Spider-Man trilogy with Tom Holland. Would you believe I think Iron Man 2 is the best out of the bunch? And the worst one I think is Iron Man 3 or Iron Man. It's a toss-up between the worst one for me. And the reason why I think Iron Man 2 is the best out of them is simply because it has Scarlett Johansson in it. And she looks sexy in it. That's why it gets 3 points out of 10. And Iron Man 2 and gets 3 points out of 10 points. You know what? That's a little harsh. I give it 5 points out of 10. Because of Scarlett Johansson in the movie. The rest, I can't stand the rest of the writing rubbish that is on screen. I couldn't stand Iron Man as the character at this point. I in fact actually think he's an idiot and unlikable prick. In Iron Man 2. He's unsympathetic narcissist by this one. In Iron Man 3, he becomes a parody of himself. Great. Rather than adding depth, you're just adding more comedy to the character. Surely this won't backfire in the future movies with the Avengers, right? That's silly thinking. Optimistic. So I give Iron Man 2 5 out of 10. You know, a 6 out of 10. I give it a 6 out of 10. It's mediocre Iron Man 2. But that's mostly because Scarlett Johansson's looks. There's enough scene with Scarlett Johansson's sex appeal easing my blood pressure from going through the roof and dying of a stroke. From so much anger towards this movie. Was everything in this movie? The only thing I like is Scarlett Johansson's decision that happened was Scarlett Johansson's character, the Black Widow. She's the only thing I like about this movie. You might say that's a little stupid for liking this movie, but I say it's better than nothing for liking this movie because there's nothing else I can say about that I like about this movie. If I couldn't like this movie just because he's Scarlett Johansson, then I would hate everything about this movie. If this movie took out more than what, then the movie would have nothing to little to offer me. Like Iron Man 3 and Iron Man 1, they were from 2008, is why I give those movies a 2 out of 10. Because I've seen the movies and I feel regret to watching those movies. Iron Man 2 and 3. And that's why I give Iron Man 2 a 6 out of 10. And Iron Man 1 a 2 out of 10. Iron Man 3 a 2 out of 10. I'm just going to say it. The problem with Iron Man 1 is that Robert Downey's miscasted in the role for Tony Stark. He's bland more than Keanu Reeves' Constantine. Keanu Reeves' Constantine is a loose adaptation of the Constantine from the source material intentionally because, Constantine in the comics is written as an English character with English accent, and that's kind of part of his accent in his character, Constantine in the comic, and granted, we did got a more faithful Constantine for one season show where he was played by a different guy and not Keanu Reeves and had a different tone, more similar to the source material. The guy looked more like the guy from the comics and acted more like the guy from the comics with the accent and stuff. And so, I'm not saying Keanu Reeves' Constantine's bad. I'm just saying his Constantine's nothing as a character compared to the source material Constantine. He's not a bad character in general, like Tony Stark was played by Robert Downey Jr., but he is a more serious character than Constantine from the source material, written as Keanu Reeves' Constantine. Granted, it's supposed to be a loose adaptation of DC's Constantine, and it's written as a loose adaptation. That's something that people on the internet will mention. That's written as a loose adaptation of the source material with the DC character Constantine. Anyway, I'm done talking about the shitty Iron Man trilogy. I give Iron Man 1 a 2 out of 10, Iron Man 1 a 2 out of 10, Iron Man 3 a 2 out of 10, and Iron Man 2 a 6 out of 10. Because of the eye candy, Scarlett Johansson is the best of the eye candy in the movie. And tons of it. And the best performance in the movie, sadly. And the most likable character, sadly, is not Iron Man. Boy, that pains me to say that. So, I give Constantine from 2005, starring Keanu Reeves, a 10 out of 10. Because it's a different take, different take that's loose. It's definitely loose adaptation, but it's definitely creative adaptation with its ideas and visuals. I gotta admit, Constantine wasn't a bad movie, And you gotta say for the post-credits thing, because it's like, Constantine gets another angel sidekick, by the end of the movie, after the old one gets fired from her job by trying to kill the devil. And he gets turned human. Then Shia LaBeouf's cat that got killed off early in the movie, that was Constantine's sidekick, now becomes an angel. And you see that that's a post-credits scene after the end credits. Or all overwrapping up. And I thought that was cool, where the sequel might go, like a character might return for the sequel, if they ever did make a sequel to Constantine. I thought that was cool, seeing it play out. Seeing Shia LaBeouf's character return as an angel after getting killed off. So yeah, I love the movie Constantine from 2005. I think came out, and I like the game, the tie-in game. That's the game that's takes loose story. If you ever seen the Constantine game or played the Constantine game, I remember me and my brother played it when we rented it in 2000 when it came out on the PlayStation 2. It was a cool game, I thought. I thought the game was very creative, like the movie, But it took a different route with the story than the one was in the movie. But it got cool with the creative design levels, And it had this like spooky atmosphere. It's designed to the games, like similar to the movie designs, with the color tone and stuff, and the graphics and visuals. It's definitely a game worth checking out. in playing, going back to play. I think I want to play that game, get that game on physical. I gotta get that game on physical because it was a really fun game I wanted to play. So was the Lilo and Stitch game. Anyway, Constantine, the movie, is a 10 out of 10. Very creative, very original take on the character Constantine. It's a loose adaptation, so it takes things in a much different style and tone than what the source material would have probably made up with was the story. It's definitely a loose adaptation because Constantine's definitely is a white guy, a white American guy in the movie. Obviously, he doesn't have that English accent or has any English in his background. He's just different, overall different, written as a different Constantine than one that's written in the DC source material. And he does look different than Constantine and dress different than Constantine, the one in the source material. Like, source material Constantine dresses kind of jaded, and like was the outfit he often normally wears. That's you see the same out. He wears a similar outfit that he wears in the Constantine show. Is how he dresses traditionally. That's his signature look, in the source material. If you've seen the Constantine 2010 era or 2016 or 15 era, that last, the Constantine show that landed on HBO, aired on and lasted for like one season. That Constantine's more similar to the faithful to source material and written like more to be like source material Constantine than the one that's in the movie. It intentionally does a loose adaptation in the movie. The first Constantine adaptation is the one with Keanu Reeves, and that one tries to be less faithful to the source material, but for a reason. Keanu Reeves, I don't think, could actually play a believable English guy. He can only play he has a limited acting range, I think the creators of the movie knew that Keanu Reeves is a good actor, but he has a limited acting range skills. So he does play a good Constantine with the script that they gave him in the final draft. He plays a good version of this Constantine, and it definitely isn't Constantine like the source material, but it's definitely inspired by the source material of Constantine, but took it in a different world and took in the character in a different tone and a different direction for this universe of the 2005 era of Constantine. It's one of those source material adaptations we can see just by looking at the source material, the pages of the comic. You can see that they definitely went into a much different direction than what the comics were doing. It's kind of like the Spawn movie, the 90s Spawn movie. You know how the 90s Spawn movie went more of a campier, different direction than the source material went in more of a dark and gritty, dark tone with creeping the atmosphere. The one that was the source material and the cartoon Spawn were more similar to the the HBO cartoon show Spawn, how it was more similar to the source material comics, and the movie Spawn took a different direction and it was this tone and characters. It went more for camp and shock value for the 90s, and in return you get it was this tone. It went more for camp and shock humor and shock value and shock tones the audience with this humor and everything was the action stuff, the spectacle. I'm not saying Keanu Reeves is exactly like that, but basic an idea example is what Keanu Reeves is like that, with his adaptation being loose. Like this, not like the source material, it's more the opposite of the source material, a different tone and a different character all around, feels like. But you can tell it feels like inspired by the source material. Like the Dark Knight trilogy. Or like the Superman movies was Christopher Reeves, all four of them. That's why I give Keanu Reeves' Constantine a 10 out of 10. For me, this worked of a movie. This worked for me, this movie, the changes in the movie. As a fan of the social media and a fan of cinema, I say the idea and changes what they kept and the similar worked for me. The mission match ideas that they kept similar and changed for this movie, 2005 Keanu Reeves Constantine movie, worked for me, I think. So I don't really have problems with this movie. It's paced well. It has a slow pace to it, but it's paced well and keeps you engaged. And I usually remember all of this movie, so that's why I give it a 10 out of 10. Definitely one of Keanu Reeves' best movies. Personally, I like this more than Matrix 3 or Matrix the original flick, or definitely a lot more than Matrix 4. But it's tied between Matrix Reloaded and Keanu Reeves' movie, John Wick 3. And John Wick 3 I like more than John Wick 1. It had a tighter pace and more stuff to keep me engaged in the movie, and it felt more like a justifiable action flick of a movie, John Wick 3. Didn't see John Wick 2 yet, but I want to, or in 4 I want to see. So I really like Keanu Reeves' movie, Constantine. I think I've talked myself into thinking that this is probably my favorite thing he's done in his career as an actor, taking on roles. Constantine's my favorite role he's done. I just said that because I just realized that. Is why I give Constantine a 10 out of 10. Goodbye. Like this video. Join my subscribers. Subscribe to my content, my new audience. And those who haven't subscribed yet keep seeing my videos, subscribe now, please. For my subscribers, like this video. Hope you enjoy this review, my audience. Goodbye.